and thereby harmless. And all this was checked in laboratories in China, Europe, that animals in animal research could have their normal mental and motoric capabilities when this kind of radiation would put as a climate around them for a testing period. Instead of having a normal mobile phone radiation deteriorating their mental capacity. So that is another adding to what we talked about last night. There are possible ways of trying to solve or to heal or to balance out that incredible radiation that we all... this is just what I mention it just here because over the years I saw that when you have a mobile phone on your ear and it impacts the brain and it destroys the membrane between the blood-brain and the blood-brain barrier, so it gets like a sow insect. So the blood coming through with heavy metals and colors and other things from your lifestyle invades the fat tissue in the brain much more easily nowadays than before. Researchers at Lund Institute or University in southern Sweden claim, and have done that for about 10 years now, that they expect that the generations now that at the age of 6, 8, 9 have a mobile phone, when they reach their late 20s, many of them will already experience what's it called? A main brain, what's it called? Tumors, yeah, but also, pardon? Yeah, memory loss. Alzheimer, that was the word. Thank you for the key. I mentioned it before. Alzheimer's, think about it. Late 20s, Alzheimer. That's our future. Their faculty is gone. The mental faculty is mature at the age of 21. Their energy patterns are destroyed in their youth. That's our future. Well, so when mercury adds to mobile phone use, because of the synergy impact on the pituitary and the pineal gland, we are in bad shape. And then over the years we have seen different animal experiences or research programs, also monkeys that having implanted amalgams in the jaw or in their teeth. That goes for the monkeys. And we see that these pregnant sheep, it passes through to the fetus, and all that is possibly more or less common knowledge now. But it was experienced in the late 80s and early 90s. Hal Hawkins did a research study, and this could be some difficulty in looking or clarifying, but you have the amalgam on the top, and you have from the clearing of a lot of research internationally, he found that different organ systems were stressed and created disease by the different contents of the amalgam filling: copper, mercury, tin, silver, and zinc. And when you have a dark spot quadrant, you have a problem with the kidney, the liver, the heart, the nervous system, the chromosomal, the birth defects, carcinogen, immunology, cytotoxic, behavioral toxicity, hematologic, and pulmonary systems are all impacted and stressed and diseased. If you go to the federal agencies and how they regulate on the same aspects of dentistry, you have in the top part, you have regulations on Safe Drinking Water Act, special regulations on your particular metal ions. So in the outer society, where EPA and other agencies work and assures certain amount of safety for the public, you have regulations, but not in dentistry. Here we have a picture showing, like I said before, we have a client that says, who wants to make a proper decision. We could do nothing, and the degree of disease or illness will fall, the life quality. We can add a gold crown to a mouthful of silver fillings, and we have detrimental impact of that, lowering the vitality. And we can remove amalgam fillings without the proper sequence, according to the measuring of current, voltage, and microamp. So, and we can also replace random materials. So this is the wrong way to do it, like a lot of dentists do, random. Or we can take the more intelligent road, where we move them in the right sequence with compatible materials, with a general supplementation program, so the person is nourished and ready to go to heal on many levels, have these substances ready. And that could go into a special supplementation program. And he also added that if I have one person a Monday in the clinic, I wouldn't schedule the next visit 3 weeks later, Monday, because the immune system has 7, 14, 21 days circles, 7-day circles. So this person, 21 days later, would be low in immune system capacity, and it would be no good to go to the dentist and have another amalgam replaced. So, and then a future nutritional program assured that the person has learned from this whole experience. Sorry. I think that this will cover, well, I'll just take this. This is just white cells count, so it's lymphocytes and leukocytes in the bloodstream. And you see before, per milliliter blood from the first patient, we had a very high white cell count, which represents a stressed person with disease. We removed the amalgam fillings, and 2 days after, it's from 16,000 per milliliter blood, the white cells, to 12,000 per milliliter, 12,700. So it's had an immediate drop of that amount, which indicates a less stressed person. And you can see the same picture with radical alleviation of the very high level of immune stress when you have amalgams in your mouth, represented by the very high number of leukocytes and lymphocytes in your bloodstream. That's just it. So this is just one of the final pictures of this section, just to indicate that the quadrant with the highest reading, that's where we begin. So there's a -16 on the upper right side. And then that would be the next, the -12, and so forth. So you can take one at a time, or maybe one and maybe one more. So the quadrant with the highest reading is what you do. And if the person have degenerative diseases and have quite a weak immune system, you take one by one, and you allow maybe a month or 2 in between to make sure that the integrational process has its time and function. Ja, tak. I would like to change into another aspect of fluoride, and I'll start with this Mike Adams, the health ranger from the naturalnews.com, who made a nice little the fluoride deception.
Fluoride. Dentists say that drinking it can protect your teeth against cavities. Cities and towns all across the world actually dump it into the water supply, hoping to indiscriminately medicate the population through their tap water faucets. The official story on fluoride sounds wonderful. Drink the stuff and you won't get cavities, we're told. It's a nice story. But there's another side to this story, the side you're never told. And it starts with the astonishing but verifiable fact that nearly all the fluoride dripped into municipal water supplies isn't naturally occurring fluoride at all. In fact, it's actually a combination of hexafluorosilicic acid and sodium silicofluoride. These two chemicals are considered highly toxic by the EPA. They're actually classified as hazardous waste, and when packaged for transportation, they must be labeled as poison and handled by workers wearing industrial safety gear. So, what are hexafluorosilicic acid and sodium silicofluoride, and where do they come from? That's the part of this story that you probably won't believe. That is, not until you check it out for yourself. Because the more you look into the mythology of fluoride, the more bizarre this story becomes. And this bizarre story begins at phosphate mining companies. Phosphate is an important mineral used in fertilizers. It's mined from natural rock deposits scattered across the world, and the phosphate rock is then refined to produce phosphoric acid. If that name sounds familiar, that's because it's one of the main ingredients in carbonated sodas, such as Coke and Pepsi. Phosphoric acid is often compared to battery acid. It's a highly acidic liquid that is believed to be the primary reason why drinking sodas can result in kidney stones and a loss of bone mineral density. Phosphate rock is also used to create fertilizers. The problem is phosphate is often contaminated with high levels of fluoride, as much as 40,000 parts per million, or up to 4% of the raw ore. To remove the fluoride, sulfuric acid is added to a wet slurry of phosphate and water. This causes the fluoride to vaporize, creating highly toxic gaseous compounds such as hydrogen fluoride and silicon tetrafluoride. These toxic fluoride chemicals used to be released directly from the smokestacks of phosphate mining operations, but the nearby farms suffered devastating losses of cattle and food crops, which withered away and died due to, guess what? Fluoride poisoning. In order to stop this environmental destruction, the phosphate mining industry put in place a way to capture the toxic fluoride chemical vapors so that they wouldn't be released into the air and kill the surrounding livestock and vegetation. This was accomplished by installing wet scrubbers that captured the toxic fluoride chemicals, preventing them from being released into the environment and killing the plant and animal life living nearby. It is from these wet scrubbers that toxic fluoride chemicals are now harvested. They're collected, repackaged, shipped to your local city, and then dumped into the municipal water supply. So instead of these toxic fluoride chemicals being released by the phosphate mining smokestacks, they are instead captured and then released into the water supply of large cities, where the chemicals then contaminate the water of millions of people at a time. This is called water fluoridation. When dentists and doctors say they support fluoride in the water supply, what they're really saying is that they support the mass poisoning of the population with a highly toxic hazardous waste